what are we doing here?
Just a couple of homies by the pool trying to get these gargantuan giant pins with no micro adjust turned into these little pins with micro adjust, because that's way easier to aim with. Let's see, I don't think they actually make it this way, period. So James will have a one-off exclusive.
Let's go.
Let's go, buddy. We're actually robbing and pillaging multiple pieces of one to another. And the angle here is a little brutal to get those loose. There it goes. Because we need that with this, and then this rail with this head on it. So we're basically tearing them apart twice.
Yeah.
I must like this guy or something to do all this work.
Basically made me do it, you know.
I just said, we got time, why aren't we doing it?
Yeah.
Like you said, you wanted it.
Yep.
I got it right now. Let's just do it.
Yep.
James is very susceptible to peer pressure, as am I at times. So you see, that would make them line up the same, but you're almost out of moving your sight to the right. So we're going to want to move that way, one position, when we put it back together, because there's holes underneath there that allow you to do that. You ever take one of these apart?
Nope.
It's amazing how many people never take a black gold apart that have had one forever. So yeah, underneath here, there's a bunch of holes and plates, so you can move the left to right, so you have more movement left and right on your sight than it looks like you have, like a lot more.
That's cool. I did not know that.
Yeah. Yeah, unfortunately, you got to like remove a bunch of bolts to do it.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of work just to move a little left to right. See it. Two holes, and they don't line up, so you can like go all the way from here to here in multiple positions. And we're going to use this one because this one has a little micro drive in it to finitely adjust the rail instead of just the big old sloppy move it back and forth.
Go ahead and give me a rating on the dual track sight.
The dual track is my favorite sight currently, and has been since they came out with it. I actually discussed the idea of this with the people over there for like 6-7 years. I'm like, please make this, please make this. Well, there were legality reasons why they couldn't, but as soon as the legality reasons were removed, they came out with the sight, and I got really excited because it does almost everything I want a sight to do within reason, without any fat. You know, there's not any waste, there's not any excessive weight. For the average hunter that's using a movable sight, I think, personally, 2 pins on a slider chassis is the most versatile, because it's a cleaner sight picture, it's easier to see, it's easier to aim with,
yep. And
you still have that secondary pin, which myself, I just max it out. I move it as far as I can and know what the second distance is between it. So I know when something moves, I know, okay, the distance between this and this is like 15 yards, so I'll move to that and send her out.
Yep.
All right, so that's going to move us over, what, 1/8 of an inch, give or take? So that would make this windage almost in the middle of it, so you'd have more optimal movement. All right, so now the next thing is we need this body without that head. So now, would you believe I've never done this before, and I need my other wrench because those screws are small. We have to take the indicator needles out and that screw out, and then it should come off. I'll be right back. So now I pulled this little screw out right here, which is what stops the sight from going upward. Now I gotta take the indicator needles out. So the only thing we'll have to do is, in fact, you got your phone?
Yes.
Take a picture of that indicator needle gap, so when we put it back together, we can match what's there. Now we gotta take both of the indicator needle pins out, so we can disassemble the head and the rail together, so we can keep this piece. All this so James doesn't have to put a new sight tape on.
Yes, I appreciate that.
That's the only reason we're doing this, so he doesn't have to put a new sight tape on. He's gonna be thanking me when he goes to tack and wants to make a tiny little adjustment now. So this now will wheel right off and pull off. Dang. So these two are now separated. We can do the same thing with this one. We're gonna take this part and put it in here, for here, right? Because they're the same piece, we just need that tape to still be attached. So once again, indicator needles off. These are very small screws, so be careful. Make sure you got a table or something underneath you, especially one with a little lip edge here, so it can't just roll off on you. I'm not sure if I've ever seen somebody do a video of tearing these apart and putting them back together. So.
I feel like I got to send you this footage and put it on.
You can.
Or I'll post it. I don't care.
Well, it should be posted regardless. But
yeah.
And that is the dilemma that I'm sure you've experienced a lot, is you just want to knock something out and you can't do it. You're like, but I have to film this.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
The number of times I've done that to myself where I'm kicking myself for this life, because it's like, I just want to get this done and move on to the next thing. And
nope, got to set up a camera.
Got to set up a camera, got to record this. Now it takes 3 times as long.
Yeah. But it helps some people.
It does, and that's the whole point. That's what we're hoping for, is that people learn. Okay, so the longer ones are in the side that stop and start the sight. And the indicator needles ones are shorter. So they are not the same screw. I think they're the same thread, but they're longer and shorter. So the short ones go on the indicator needles, and the long ones are the start and stop safety positions of the sight. Little known fact, on the dual track, there's 2 here. There's a stop below and a stop above, and you can take that out and the sight will move farther down. Now granted, you can take the sight to where it moves completely off, but your indicator needle will stop at a certain point. The only negative of this not being in there is you can bend your indicator needle if you push the sight down all the way into the indicator needle. But this will allow you, if you remove it, which I do on all mine, shoot a little farther as long as you're not running into the scope head. So, pro tip right there. Take that out, you shoot farther. All right, so those should be all out, so we should be able to now pull this assembly off, put this one back in. That's a good wheel and a good turn, that feels good. Now we can put James already had the bottom one off of the other one. I'm sure he did that on purpose, or somebody did it for him that knew better to remove it. Bruce probably took it out.
Bruce probably took it out.
Yeah, he's like, you don't want to lose that range, son.
Yeah.
Well, he knows where you're shooting too, right?
Yeah.
So, and you'll have to turn the knob a little bit to where it lines up with these screw position holes. Okay, so we're screwing that one back in, and this is the only screw that's going back in on this side. Okay, we're going to wheel this all the way to the top, because that's where 20 is going to be. And we're going to take the 2 indicator needles. This is the lower one. This is the upper one. So we're going to drop this through here. Set it up there. We're getting a little breeze here. Please don't fall. And grab the little screw. Make sure it's in there good. Screw it in. And then move the indicator needle where it runs back into 20. There we go. Looks like it's pretty much all the way up.
Yep.
Yep. So now that's back where the other one was. Grab the smaller, lower indicator needle, drop it back in here.
To 40.
Mm-hmm. Looks like it was 41, if I had to guess off your other one.
Maybe a little over. Yeah.
Whoa, 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 whoa.
Oh, I see it. Yep.
See, that's why you have the edge. That was dangerous.
Yep.
That's why you get down to a table and get low. So if it falls, it doesn't fall that far. All right, and then we're going to look at our head position here in relation to that, and you can see it's on like a little over 2. Now these numbers aren't going to be exactly the same, but they should be close. So we're going to move the scope head to where it's pretty close to where that was. And then I'm going to set his left to right when I put it back on the bow and just kind of eyeball where it should belong. Because we moved these positions here, so the left right's not going to be the same, so we can't go off of where that left right's set. But there's a lot you can do when you're taking one side off and putting another side on to get it really close to where it was before you ever fire an arrow out of it, if you're just observant and pay attention to where it's at.
I would imagine the biggest thing is trying to get the secondary pin close to where it was on the last one, you know, by dropping it down, which is an amazing part of the dual track, in my opinion, that you can move that.
That is a cool feature. Okay, so that, when I'm looking at that, doesn't quite line up with that screw head. And that does. So this is probably about there, I'm guessing.
Go ahead and tell the people
A little more.
why you like the micro adjust so much.
So there's a couple real big benefits to micro adjust that have nothing to do with the fact that it moves small. Number one, making an adjustment is easy. Right, and like James has realized his left to right's off a little bit, right? And he's like, oh, I'm just gonna bump it a little bit. Like, you know, if that was micro adjust, you could actually bump it a little bit. You could move it in the middle of shooting with ease, because when you loosen the screw, the micro adjust unit is holding the sight still. You loosen a screw that doesn't have micro adjust in it, and the sight can just slide. Right, so that's number one. It's super easy for micro adjustment. Once you get them set and you've got it where you want it, another little pro tip is just twist it all the way one way. so there's nothing loose here, because as a micro unit sits, it can be a little loose. Same thing here. Click until it stops. You've driven it to the one direction of the movement, so it's not sitting there loose and vibrating. So it'll keep it quiet. But the biggest plus to me on a micro adjust unit is if your sight windage or elevation vibrates loose, which if you've shot for a long time, the odds are really high that's happened to you, the sight doesn't fall off. It's still there, it's still attached, it's just making noise. Tighten the windage screw or the elevation screw back down, you're still in the same spot. It hasn't moved. So it can save you a lot of grief. It's definitely easier to sight your bow in more accurately. It's way easier to make a finite adjustment. Like if you realize you're a half an inch at 80 yards, how are you moving your slide adjust for that?
Yeah, right.
You're really not. A click windage will. And the black golds aren't that much more expensive in a micro. There's not a big price jump. It's like 70, 80 bucks, I think, for the exact same sight width and without micro adjust. So if you're smart, you'll save a little money save up a little money and buy a micro adjust sight over a slide adjust, because it will help you in the long run. And you're more likely to keep a sight for a longer period of time as well.
There you go.
Okay, so the one thing, we'll have to do two things. I'll have to eyeball your left to right, and then I'll have to put this in a jig and check the level, because this rail's different than the other rail. But we have James's new micro adjust Bowtech dual track micro here. This micro here is awesome. It makes really nice fine small adjustments, and then tiny pins.
Would you say that that is the only sight that exists that has the center mass, the micro adjust, and the 1.0s on a dual track?
To my knowledge, they don't offer it. So yeah, I think this is the only one that ever has existed to this point.
It's kind of badass, huh?
That's pretty badass, man.
Yeah,
that's good stuff.
Thank you, dude. Go ahead and send me the invoice.
Yeah, you got it. Okay, so we're trying to get the actual sight level in the housing here, and we've got our string level on here. It's nice and two-way, you can see that. So we're good and even there. So then we come up and look at our first axis, which is the rail, and it needs to be bumped a little bit, which will make the scope head change a little bit. So we are going to loosen. So I can sneak in here like this. I can't. I'm going to take the quiver off. So loosen that just a little bit. And then here's where the micro drive is cool. Put that in there and just turn it. And it drives it. And now, if you look at that bubble, it's perfectly level there. So we're going to tighten it back down. This one snug. There you go. Now we just have to get this level in relation to that, so we don't need this anymore. This is the part that sucks, because these never want to move very cleanly. That was so lucky.
Nailed it?
Yeah, right out the gate. Right to that one. Yep. Nailed it. That never happens. I usually mess with it for like 5 minutes trying to get that thing level. Just snug there. Snug there. She level. Let's go shoot it.
See how we do.